so many people who've chosen social work as a second career because they're so unfulfilled in their first career.
Some of my favorite videos to edit are the interviews with other social workers. Like, I grab my coffee and I sit down and I listen. I'm basically asking them all the questions I would want to know because I'm so nosy, guys. Stay tuned all the way to the very end, especially if you feel like burnout and boundaries have really hit you hard this year, which for me, it has. I really needed to hear her message. Anyway, I'm gonna let Nabila take it over from here. Hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Nabila Anwar. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I live in Houston, Texas, and I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with my Bachelor's of Social Work and Master's of Science in Social Work, hook 'em horns. I'm really excited to be part of Lauren's Social Work Month celebrations. She's a fellow Longhorn. We graduated at the same time and we didn't even realize it. So really glad I'm able to collaborate with her and here to answer some questions. Texas is a state with title protection, so I couldn't officially call myself a social worker until I got that license. So 2009, so it's been, I guess, almost 13 years. I got my LCSW in 2011, so been in the field for a while now. I work for a major insurance company, and I work in healthcare quality with a focus on behavioral health. And so whenever one of our insured members experiences negative treatment, or if they have a grievance about the way they were treated by a professional or a provider, we investigate those grievances. I also investigate quality of care concerns that come from other clinicians at our company in reviewing care for our membership. And so it's a lot of reviewing documents, medical records, and trying to figure out whether somebody got appropriate behavioral health care at any level of care. So it's very interesting work, and it's very different from my previous experience. My very first job out of grad school was for an assertive community treatment team. And in doing that role, I was out in the community with very high-risk populations, some of the most severely mentally ill people at my agency. And I would do home visits, make sure people were taking their medications, taking them to doctor's appointments. And one group home that I would visit regularly was all men. And sometimes a man would come out completely naked because he was psychotic and thought it would be a good idea to just take off his clothes. And, looking back, you can kind of chuckle at it, but it was, kind of scary at the time. I also worked with the court system. So sometimes that meant picking people up from jail when they're off their medications. So that happened to me a couple of times. And so I had actively psychotic people in my personal car that I would drive to a clinic that was almost an hour away. And just on a hope and a prayer, just really made sure that they got there safely and that they didn't try to jump out of the car. Speaking of stressful and scary work, self-care is a huge part of what we should be practicing as social workers. And so 3 things that I do for myself: listen to a good podcast while I do chores or go for a walk. I absolutely love true crime. It's my favorite genre. I love trying to figure out a mystery and try to solve it. My favorite true crime podcast is My Favorite Murder. So if there are any murderinos out there, shout out. Another thing that I love to do is yoga and riding my bike or going for long walks and hikes in the park. And third of all, I love to take a bath. My husband regularly gets me bath bombs because he knows how much I love to take a bath and relax and soak in some warm water. And if you follow me on Instagram, sometimes you'll see it in my stories when I try out new bath bombs. So those are my 3 self-care tips. Right when you feel like, you've hit your limits and you're burnt out and you're ready to leave the field, bam, something amazing happens. You have a connection with the client and you're like, okay, this is why I do this work. That moment came for me pretty early on in my career. I was actually doing my field placement as a graduate student. I was at a family counseling center. I remember feeling very overwhelmed with doing family therapy, and in came this 14-year-old girl who wanted to share with her mother that she was sexually active, and she was very scared to tell her mom. And so I walked into the session, sat down with with this girl and her mother, and I was there to support her through that difficult conversation. At one point, things went awry. She ran out of the session, and I got up and I ran after her, and we sat in the parking lot on the curb and kind of helped her regulate her emotions, bring her down a few notches, and we just came up with a plan then and there about how we were going to go back into that room and finish our session with her mother. And it ended up pretty well. They opened up some lines of communication. Things got de-escalated. And, I think back, I was like, wow, that was so early on, and I trusted my social work instinct. I don't do direct practice anymore, but when I did, my favorite modality was solution-focused brief therapy and also motivational interviewing. Those two modalities to me are really great ways of getting to the bottom of issues quickly, especially in managed care when sessions are 50 minutes and you got to move things along. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury of time. And with motivational interviewing, it's really great at meeting people where they are and moving them along their path to reaching their goals. And so I really love those two modalities, and I've used them a lot in telephonic case management work that I did, direct case management work that I did, and also in the admissions department when I worked at the psychiatric facility. If I wasn't a social worker, becoming a filmmaker would probably be my second thing, and it would really focus my films on social justice issues. I sometimes think, why didn't I go and double major in social work and in radio, television, and film at the University of Texas? I thought that, it was a scary idea to just give up, my pre-med. I was on a pre-med track. I was a bio major. I switched to social work. I was like, that was scary enough to make that leap. I knew I wanted to work in the social justice area. I knew that there were causes that I was passionate about. I come from a culture and a community that is very averse to talking about mental health. And there's a lot of stigma around just talking about mental health, and it's not widely recognized. And then I was like, okay, I feel like I'm in the right place. I think that as a South Asian woman, being a clinician, I can bring something to my community that is not widely discussed. And so I feel like I'm right where I need to be. And I'm very happy I decided to become a social worker, even though it's taken me a while to get to a place where I'm actually happy and thriving and making a really great salary and have great benefits. So if you're still starting out and you're like, oh, is this right for me? Constantly be looking for other opportunities, because it's such a vast field with so many different settings. You can always find something where you feel like you can fit in. I promise you. Some rapid fire questions I'm going to answer. Here we go. It depends on the weather and my mood. Sometimes I like to just have a bold, hot cup of coffee with nothing in it. The coffee's really good. I am now an Android girl after I discovered the Google Pixel phone. Absolutely love it. If you're tired of Apple's planned obsolescence and proprietary, equipment and software and all that, try the Pixel. I am definitely a sunset girl, especially when I'm on vacation. I readily take photos of sunsets when I'm on vacation. I am an INFJ. Oftentimes I'm just a wallflower, and I kind of take my time to get acclimated in social settings. So I am very introverted in that sense, but I do love connecting with people and networking. At the moment, I definitely love This American Life or Radio Lab. Hidden Brain is a really great podcast as well if you're interested in psychology and how psychology affects different aspects of life in society. That's a really great podcast that I would recommend. I also listen to the Melanated Social Work podcast and Social Work Rants as well. I am definitely more of a city girl. I've always lived in either a big city or a suburb. Right now I live in Houston, which is one of the biggest cities in the country. So definitely a city girl. I did grow up in Canada where it's very snowy. Would never move back to a snowy climate unless I got paid a lot of money. So I'm definitely more of a summer girl. I'm also a Leo, born in August, definitely a summer girl. I used to hate naps. Now I can't get enough sleep since I'm a new mom. So definitely more into naps than workouts these days. Sometimes being a social worker can be very stressful, and you can feel overwhelmed, and you may just be ready to rage quit the field. I know I felt like that before, but if you hang in there, and again, you just continue to build on your credentials, build on your experience, jump around in different settings if you need to, and keep finding opportunities where you can progressively increase your income, you can definitely find a place that will make you fulfilled and happy. And of course, there are just some people who are not meant to be social workers, and that's okay. But I know so many people who've chosen social work as a second career because they're so unfulfilled in their first career. So that's just some insight I want to share. Check me out at Mindful Nab if you want to connect or get to know me a little bit more, and just a network as well. It's kind of like a personal blog where I also share recipes and food that I love to make. I'm a new mom, and I like to talk about, the big changes that I'm going through as well. Feel free to give me a follow, and also check me out on the social work podcast, Social Worker Rants, if you want to learn more about my journey to becoming a social worker. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you again, Lauren, for having me on your YouTube channel. Enjoy your social work month.
I'm an INFJ too. If you resonated and had any similarities, drop them in the comments below. I can't wait to read them. If you want to participate, you want me to send you the questions, let me know. Send me a comment or send me an email, and we'll set it up so we can do a little fun interview too. Till next time, I'm wishing you social work success. Bye-bye.